Hello everybody, it's Who Was Phone here, and we're back again today to record the third video of my ongoing Dark Souls 1 playthrough. And before we get started with today's gameplay, I want to give a huge shout out to everybody that supported me on Tumblr or YouTube, giving me likes and reblogs and subscribes and all that good stuff. I didn't really have a whole lot of motivation to make these videos when I started, but knowing that people are getting something out of it and that it's helping at least a few people makes me want to continue doing that. So I really appreciate it, and I hope that I continue to pump out stuff that you guys enjoy. You'll see that we actually have no souls, and that we're human form, and we're wielding the claymore and this strange kind of shield. Unfortunately, this is the second time I'm recording this. I realized I had forgot to hit start record at the beginning of the last time I played through this area. So I ended up doing some things off camera accidentally, and I'll show you where I picked up this shield and what I did with our character in a second. Just wanted to get that cleared up so there was no confusion about, why I looked like this. First things first, we did level up. You see we're level 18 as opposed to level 12 I think we were last time, or level 11. I broke all of the item souls that we had in our inventory and went ahead and used them to give us 2 more levels of strength, and then I think 6 levels or 5 levels of endurance. So that brought our equip load up from 50 to 55, and that gave us enough so that we can use both the Grass Crest Shield and the Claymore while still having a fast roll. I upgraded the Claymore to +1, which didn't increase anything so far other than its physical damage, and that's okay. +1 isn't going to make a whole lot of difference as the damage it does, but it's better to get started on this now. You'll see I actually went ahead and I fought the boss once, and I had to commit suicide because I didn't want to kill the boss without catching it on camera. Before I did that, I cut off its tail and got the Gargoyle tail axe. And we'll examine that after the boss fight, kind of for continuity's sake. The other item I got was the Black Knight Halberd from the Black Knight that guarded the Grass Crest Shield. I'll show you that area in a second. And it's the same lore as the Black Knight Sword, for the most part. And the other thing I got was this Grass Crest Shield you see on my back. So it's a metal shield, a medium metal shield, 2.5 pounds lighter than the Knight Shield, less of an attack, same durability, but it offers us better protection than the wooden shield. We'll see if we equip the wooden shield here. Oops. Equip the wooden shields here. And look at the Grass Crest Shield. It gives us better physical damage reduction, better magic damage reduction, and better fire damage reduction at the cost of some lightning damage. But that's fine. 1 point of stability also is not going to make that much of a difference in how much we can block or how much stamina it takes to block. And the weight, 1.5 pounds more, isn't that bad actually for a metal shield with 95% block. And the effect that it has, which is to increase stamina recovery, which will offset the penalty of our Claymore and Zweihander later, which have pretty high stamina costs per swing. We'll look at the item info for it. Old medium metal shield of unknown origin. The Grass Crest is lightly imbued with magic, which slightly speeds stamina recovery. This is an effect that is similar to the Chloranthy Ring, which we will see later, and like I said before, it'll offset the penalties of using a large weapon, and will also offset any type of heavy armor penalty that we have going forward. Something to note is that you only get the effect when it's actively out, but it does not need to be wielded in the left hand for you to get the effect. You can have it on the back and two-hand your weapon and still get that stamina recovery effect. So we're going past Andre to the Prowling Demon, or Titanite Demon, and this guy is an enemy that's similar to the Black Knights. You'll see them as non-respawning mini-boss type enemies in many parts of the game, and they'll drop unique upgrade materials as well as having a chance to drop their Titanite Catchpole Halberd class weapon, which isn't the best weapon, but hopefully we'll be able to see that and get it as a drop. You see the Claymore doing a pretty fair amount of damage to these guys. This area that we're in is the Darkroot Garden, or Darkroot Basin, and it's one of the mid-game areas in the game. We're not going to be completing this area actually until later after we complete the DLC, because there's some story significance to that. These guys drop moss clumps, these animated plants, and the clumps are useful because they heal poison or bleed or toxic or basically any type of negative status effect that can be inflicted on you by enemies minus the curse status effect. So we're traveling down here to show you the location that I got the Grass Crest Shield from. Fortunately, like I said before, forgot I wasn't recording, so I killed a crystal lizard that was over here who dropped 2 twinkling titanite and 2 large titanite shards just like the other one. And one thing I noted in my previous failed recording was that they have different drops. Each one has a different drop, or has a unique drop rather. I don't think they respawn, but everyone is going to keep the same drop, the same number of stones and type of stones that it drops in the previous playthrough. So you'll always know what you're getting, more or less. Tears ahead. Yeah, that makes sense. So originally, there was a Black Knight wielding a halberd down here, standing right here. And we managed to kill him without too much trouble. And then down here was the body containing the Grass Crest Shield. So that continues the theme we've seen of Black Knights guarding treasure. It's kind of unique treasure. That's a theme that we're going to continue seeing until the very end of the game. I don't think there's anything else we need to note here at this time. Over there, that is the Darkroot Basin proper. And it has some crystal golems that are enemies that we're not going to kill because they don't drop anything that's of use to us right now. We will be there later to kill the mini-boss of that area, and we can open up a shortcut that leads to the Undead Burg, interestingly enough. There's also some story significance to their placement there and to the placement of that shortcut. But with that out of the way, we're going to run all the way back to the Undead Parish and then hopefully beat the boss this time. I'm positive I'm recording this time, so we should be able to avoid that, avoid having to redo it. We did miss some dialogue from Andre. I think we might be able to get that by talking to him again. I'm pretty sure he repeats all of his dialogue if you prompt him for it. We'll also kill the Titanite Demon later when we can use its drops when we need to. But until then, you don't really need to come back here. We'll rest to heal up, and then we'll move back upstairs so that we can go back to the Undead Parish. Okay. So you'll notice that when we're going to come back up into the chapel area, the Knight of Berenique and the Channeler have not respawned, like I said they would. Or like, rather, how I said they would. Mini-bosses, all that good stuff. Ow. This Claymore is absolutely destroying these guys two-handed. We're going to try to two-hand it most of the time. I don't know how this is going to work really with the boss because he does some pretty heavy attacks. And 75% block is probably not going to be enough to do that, especially with the low stability of the Claymore. Only at 38. So, we'll see how that works out. You're going to notice that now that we're in human form, summon signs are appearing on the ground. And we can click on these. Corrupt player. It'll show you the name and then whether or not you want to summon them. And standing over them also shows you the equipment they're wearing. So you can make a kind of informed choice as to who you're summoning before you actually summon them. I don't think we're going to need a human phantom for this one, though. NPC phantoms are much tankier. And while they don't do as much damage usually, that's not their main purpose, I think. And we will see evidence of that. So we still got to clear out these enemies because they've respawned since we've been here the last time. They're not too hard, and with the Claymore they're going down faster than if we had used a mace to clear them out again. Without the Channeler here, this ambush becomes a lot less scary. And with a weapon with longer reach, we don't have to worry about being in attack range for all of these guys at the same time again. See if we can get a couple of them per swipe, as opposed to the one of the mace, really. Alright. I forget where Lautric's summon sign is. Over here. Both Lautric and Solaire have their summon signs down, but I cannot remember where Lautric's is. That shouldn't be too much of a problem, though, because we don't need Lautric, we don't need Solaire either, but I'm going to summon one of them to show you guys co-op works and to show you how Solaire looks when he's summoned, which is different than other phantoms. And you'll see his sign right here, which is a kind of golden orangish color. And we walk over that, and we see him there, Knight Solaire, summon this phantom. He has a unique phantom entrance animation. Most other phantoms, when you summon them, they'll come up from a kneeling position. But Solaire uses his signature Praise the Sun gesture as he comes up, and that's a gesture that's shared by all of the phantoms summoned from the Warriors of Sunlight. So if we were to join the Warriors of Sunlight, put down our summon sign, we'd be summoned the same way. And here's the boss fog. So we're not going to get the cutscene from the gargoyles because we've already fought them once, but that's okay. You'll see my my bloodstain here. I'm just going to go ahead and use that to retrieve. Deal a little bit of damage. Now you're going to notice that Solaire's going to deal a shitload of damage to this guy once he starts using lightning spears. And you can cut off his tail, but since we've already gotten the drop from it, he's not actually going to drop that weapon again. For the time being, we're going to strafe around this guy. We don't want to get caught up in that fire attack. And you also don't want to get the aggro of both of these guys at once. That's just asking for trouble. This dude, more often than not, will be using his fire attack. He's going to be using his fire attack more often than his regular physical attacks. And the other one also has the option of using fire attacks, but obviously he's not doing that as much. They're not particularly hardy enemies, and you don't even have to fight them this early in the game. You can fight them later, and they're absolute pushovers. Alright, come on, Solaire. For some reason, our buddy does not want to use... God. He does not want to use his lightning spears, which deal like a quarter of the health of the boss per cast. Just a little bit of unlucky AI there. No. Oh, I thought that would have killed him. Oh, man, this guy's tricky. All right, but that did the trick. He drops the Gargoyle's Halberd and the Gargoyle's Shield when he's killed. He also has a chance of dropping the Gargoyle Helm, and he gives us Twin Humanities. So we'll examine that item info now, along with the Gargoyle Tail Axe. So this is the weapon, again, that you get from cutting off his tail. And this is a theme that is continued with several of the bosses, usually the Dragon family bosses. So by cutting off the tails of the dragons or the gargoyles, you get special weapons. The Gargoyle Tail Axe is the sliced tail of the gargoyle guarding the Bell of Awakening in the Undead Church or patrolling in Anor Londo. Can be used as a bronze battle axe. Bends dramatically during large attacks owing to its nature as a tail. We don't have the dexterity to wield that right now, but because we're going to be getting a little bit of dexterity to use bows and to use the Black Knight sword anyway, we'll be able to see exactly how that handles as a weapon. We also see a little bit of lore. So this is obviously the location of the Bell of Awakening. That's the bell tower right there. And you'll notice that it said, along with guarding the Bell of Awakening, there are gargoyles patrolling in Anor Londo, which is a mid-game area that serves as kind of the gateway to the late game. And Anor Londo is up there. We get there after we can clear Sen's Fortress, which you can see off in the distance. And then one thing that was really cool about the Dark Souls series, really, and this game in particular, is that the level design and the world layout is very consistent. It makes sense, unlike Dark Souls 2, which is kind of spatially confusing. This one, you can see previous zones you've cleared. You can look at zones in the future. We'll see the Duke's archives later. So yeah, we see that little chapel over there near Andre that we came from that has the bonfire. Sen's Fortress over there again. Which means the Darkroot Garden is somewhere over here in those trees. You can see some of the Undead Parish over there, and then if we were not blocked by a tower, you'd see the Undead Burg as well. So that's pretty cool. Now we're going to continue up here into the bell tower and ring the bell. Pretty long ladder, but I can't remember how good the view is once we get to the top. I think it's pretty good. And like I said, well, like we learned rather from the Crestfallen Warrior, there are 2 Bells of Awakening. I know the prophecy apparently only mentions one, this one in the parish, but he has told us that there's another one in Blighttown, which we'll also have to see. And here are some non-animating gargoyles, and this lever, which pulls the bell into action. Alright, and that little cutscene was, kind of underwhelming. Nothing happened. For being such a big part of the undead prophecy, it would kind of make you wonder why something bigger didn't happen. And the reason for that is because we haven't rung the other bell. So you can ring the bells in any order. You can do Blighttown in the first area in the game if you want, if you have the Master Key. But we're not going to do that because Blighttown's annoying, and the area boss is not someone that we want to beat at base level right now. And you'll also notice that we have a new NPC down here at the bottom of the tower, and he appeared after we rang the bell.
Greetings. I am Oswald of Karim, the Pard. Thou art a friend. For thee, a warm welcome. Cometh thou to confess, or to accuse? For indeed all sin is my domain.
So this is Oswald of Karim, who has told us he's the pardoner. And what that means is that he is some sort of servant of the goddess Velka, the goddess of sin. So he sells, interestingly enough, purging stones, an indictment, a homeward bone, and the Book of the Guilty. So what you can do with indictment is it's a consumable item that lets you put a player's name into the Book of the Guilty. So if they invade you, you can use that indictment, and then it will mark them to be hunted by, I think, the Blades of the Dark Moon. Very useful. I mean, not useful to you necessarily, but it can be kind of cool to know that you're marking some dude that could screw you over to die. Let's check out the item descriptions for these. Ash-colored stone encasing a skull. Secret treasure of Arster, the Earl of Karim. Reduces curse buildup and breaks curse. Humans are helpless against curses and can only redirect their influence. The purging stone does not dispel curses, but receives them as a surrogate. The stone itself was once a person or some other being. So that's pretty dark. You'll see that we can't get rid of a curse on our own. We actually have to pass it on to another victim. So these purging stones appear to be some sort of item made using the soul or essence of a human or another organic being that can be cursed. As to why he has these, it's anybody's guess. Indictment, slip sold by Bishop of Velka, Goddess of Sin. If you are killed by an invader, use this to report the crime of that trespasser. The indicted player will be added to a list of unfortunate souls who will one day face the wrath of the Blades of the Dark Moon. So yeah, like I said, if they're put in the Book of the Guilty, they will be targeted by the Blades of the Dark Moon for retaliatory invasions based on their sin level. So things like killing NPCs and invading players will give you sin levels. Homeward Bone is an item that we actually have, but we haven't examined the item description for. Bone fragment reduced to white ash. Return to last bonfire used for resting. Bonfires are fueled by bones of the undead. In rare cases, the strong urge of their previous owners to seek bonfires enchants their bones with a homeward instinct. So we can kind of assume that these are either taken from bonfires or are taken from undead that have been alive and hollowed long enough to want to return to a bonfire, which kind of symbolizes home for the undead that have been ejected from their previous homes. He also sells, in addition to these items, a miracle, Karmic Justice. A miracle of the black-haired witch Velka. Temporary auto-counter versus heavy damage. For each sin there is a punishment, and it is the task of Goddess Velka to define the sin and mete out the punishment. Well, Velka, already we can see, is kind of an interesting character. She's referred to as a goddess in the Indictment and Book of the Guilty, but she's referred to as a witch in Karmic Justice, and that owes to her status as a rogue deity. Whether that means she was a deity and was expelled from Anor Londo, the city of the gods, by the other gods, or whether she took upon herself the mantle of deity and serves as some kind of vigilante, that remains to be seen. He also sells Velka's Talisman, which is a very interesting talisman because, as you'll see from the item description, medium for casting miracles of the gods. This black tuft of hair that serves as a talisman belongs to Velka, goddess of sin. It casts miracles not by drawing upon faith, but intelligence. Whereas just about every other catalyst or talisman draws upon the faith of its wearer, you'll see here that Velka's scales with intelligence rather than faith. Kind of interesting. And he also sells 2 types of bite rings, the blood bite and poison bite, and the ring of sacrifice. The blood bite ring is one of the infamous bite rings commissioned by Sir Arster of Kareem. Despite the dreadful rumors surrounding its creation, this ring is an unmistakable asset in its ability to help prevent bleeding. And the poison bite ring has the same text, other than it has poison instead of bleeding, obviously. So Arster of Kareem has been mentioned in 3 separate items that we've seen now: the purging stone and these 2 bite rings. So we see that he's kind of a dark character, as presumably someone who deals in the domain of sin. We don't know exactly what his job was, but we can assume that it was similar to Oswald in that he pardons and is able to mete out punishment in the name of Velka. As to how he created these rings, perhaps it's similar to how he created the purging stones. Maybe they were used as some sort of surrogate for, I don't know, for whatever status ailment these are. But he's an interesting character, and one that features prominently in some of these item descriptions, and kind of offers a background into the nature of Kareem. The only other NPC that we've seen so far, other than Oswald, that has been from Kareem is Lautrec. And Lautrec, as I said last video, was... he's not a great guy. He actually ends up doing some pretty shitty things to other NPCs throughout the course of the game, which we will see. And it kind of seems like this background we've gotten from Kareem shed some light onto his personality and to the culture of Kareem as a whole. The other thing that Oswald carries is the Ring of Sacrifice. This mystical ring was created in a sacrificial rite of Velka, the goddess of sin. Its wearer will lose nothing upon death, but the ring itself breaks. So the Ring of Sacrifice is a great ring to use if you've died and lost a lot of souls, and then don't want to end up dying again and losing them before you can retrieve. So if you die and you're marked on the ground, and you equip the Ring of Sacrifice, another death will not actually erase your previous bloodstain. It'll let you go back and collect those as normal. It will break after use, so deciding when to use it is kind of important. Using the Ring of Sacrifice, or Rare Ring of Sacrifice, as we'll see later, is pretty much required in one area to prevent you from losing souls. But that's not important right now. You see, we can also abandon our current covenant and request absolution. These are 2 options that we'll probably look at later in the game. Abandoning a covenant by itself doesn't really do a whole lot, because joining another covenant simply overwrites whatever one you're in and leaves it for you. Requesting absolution, it allows you to fix your sins or right your wrongs with certain covenants. So the Forest Hunters, for example, if you leave their covenant, you're not going to be able to get back in by talking to the covenant leader again. So before that, you have to request absolution and be forgiven by Oswald, and I guess by extension by Velka.
Thou art welcome any time. It is only human not to commit a sin.
Oswald, definitely one of the weirder NPCs in the game. I'm pretty sure he doesn't ever move from that location. And if we were to attack him, we'd see that he's a pretty formidable enemy as well. We might make some use of the items that he sells. Maybe not the Velka's Talisman, because we're going to have enough faith to use real talismans. But we might use Karmic Justice. Very interesting spell. Or miracle, rather. And it could be useful. Most people don't use it because the applications aren't that big. But now that we've beat the gargoyles and won the first bell, the only thing really left to do is ring the second bell. And how we get to Blighttown is left up to us. But I think we're going to take the quick route because, as any of you who have played this game before know, going through Blighttown the normal way is pretty shitty. And we don't have any sort of moss or stuff to mitigate toxic damage. But for now, we'll go back to Firelink Shrine. You'll remember in the last video we picked up a Firekeeper Soul, which we can use to upgrade our Estus Flask. And that's going to be very useful going forward, although there aren't very many Firekeeper Souls that are out in the open. So until New Game Plus, you're probably only going to have a +2 or +3 Estus Flask, which is fine. Rest here, and then we'll see if the Crestfallen Warrior actually has any dialogue for us.
Why, what a surprise. I didn't expect you to make it. Oh, somebody rang the bell. Wait, was it you? You never give up, do you? I don't know how you do it. Well, don't stop now. Only one more. But it's going to be suicide. Don't you ever think to forge your weapons? You'd better find a smith box soon. Unless you enjoy swinging about with blunt instruments. What's wrong? Get a bit of a scare out there? No problem. Have a seat and get comfortable. We'll both be hollow before you know it. Well, what are you going to do? I've already decided. I don't really care. I'm simply crestfallen. How did that silly sorcerer's apprentice end up? You know, the one always prattling on about Master Logan. He left for the Undead Burg, but never came back. Serves him right. If even old Big Hat can't make it out there, what chance does he have? I hope he enjoys his new life as a hollow. What now? I'm not up for chatting. Leave me alone.
That was some interesting dialogue we just got from our friend the Crestfallen Warrior. I think we forgot to actually come back here and talk to an NPC that shows up after we get past the Undead Burg. We'll see him later, though. We can free him from a house in the lower Undead Burg, which we have the key for. And we'll see how he fits into the story. Crestfallen also mentioned Big Hat Logan, who is kind of a legendary sorcerer who's very, very old. And we'll also see him, but not until the mid-game when we can break into Sense Fortress. Well, that's okay. We're not a big sorcerer anyway. We go down here to Anastasia, we'll see that Knight Lautrec is here, directly across from her. Kind of creepy dude.
Ah, hello there. I have your reward. Please, accept it. I am grateful to you for freeing me. Not enough for you? Well, let's not be greedy now. You again. What is it? Our futures are murky. Let's not be too friendly now.
So you can already see Lautrec kind of showing his true colors in a subtle kind of way. Well, not so subtle, but he's not outright saying that he's hostile to us, but he's saying that our futures are murky. Let's not get too friendly. So he's Meaning to say, we might not be on the same side for too much longer here, and the reason why we'll come to see soon. If you kill him now, you'll get his ring, which boosts both your health, stamina, and your equipment load. Very useful item. But I think we're going to let his storyline play out for the sake of this playthrough. For those of you who have played Demon Souls, he functions similar to Yurt the Silent Chief, who once freed will begin to start killing NPCs in the Nexus. He works similarly, but he doesn't kill every NPC here. He only will kill Anastasia later. And we'll have to deal with the repercussions of that. But that just about does it for us today. I think this video is getting to about half hour, maybe a little bit longer. So I don't want to keep it super long. Before we leave, we'll dump some more levels into strength. How about 2 levels into strength, and we'll drop 1 into vitality and then 1 into endurance. We can get by on 15 to 20 in vitality, because after all, the best way of mitigating damage is not get hit at all. So I'll be brushing up on my dodging. The endurance, just going forward, we want to make sure our equip load is enough to be able to wear armor in addition to our weapons. That's going to be pretty important. Once strength hits 24 and dexterity hits around 14 or 18, we can probably stop leveling those and then dump the entire rest of our points from here on out into attunement, endurance, vitality, and faith, which will help us a lot more going forward than any sort of scaling we'll be getting on the weapons from strength and dexterity. Until we have managed to upgrade our Zwei to Divine, and our Claymore to Divine for that matter, the scaling isn't going to matter very much anyway. So, I think that'll do it. Next time, we'll go and get a ring that increases our equip load. Back in the Undead Burg, we'll explore the lower Undead Burg, and we'll see if we'll beat the Capra Demon next time as well. So if you've watched this far, again, I want to thank you guys for continuing to show support, and I hope that my commentary was good this time. I tripped over my own tongue in a few parts, so hopefully that's not too distracting. I think that'll do it. As always, feel free to critique me on anything I'm doing, whether it be gameplay, commentary, video quality, mic quality, etc., etc. Either you can message me on YouTube, leave a comment, or message me in my inbox on Tumblr, which I may or may not put in the description of my channel. So until next time, guys, I will see you later.